It's another edition of Time About the Movies. Today we're taking a look at the films of August 16th, 2002. We've got 3 films to look at today, so let's go ahead and jump on into it. We'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is Kate Bosworth and Michelle Rodriguez in the surfing film, Blue Crush.
They're the most dangerous waves on the planet. Out here, you don't just get crushed. You die. This summer, if you want to be the best,
these waves are for the big boys. You think you can surf it for real?
You know it.
you have to take the biggest risk.
Take a single wave like that, and you put yourself on the map. It's gonna be all right.
You're just gonna surf over.
It's not worth getting hurt over. What are you trying to prove? No one thinks a girl can do this, and I'm gonna prove them wrong.
Hey, be careful.
Blue Crush, rated PG-13. At theaters Friday, August 16th.
Almost said that this was a thriller, but no, this is more like a drama, and a surprisingly pretty good one. You have Kate Bosworth and Michelle Rodriguez, and nothing gets between Bosworth's Anne-Marie and also her board, living in a beach shack with 3 roommates, including a rebellious young sister. She's up before dawn every morning to conquer the waves and count the days until the Pipe Master surf competition. Having transplanted herself to Hawaii with no one's blessing but her own, Anne-Marie finds all she needs in the adrenaline-charged surf scene until pro quarterback Matt Tolman comes along. Like it or not, Anne-Marie starts losing her balance and finding it as she falls for Matt. And, of course, chaos and hilarity ensue, I guess. I don't know. But, the trailers for this, it's pretty much aimed at the Fast and Furious audience. But unlike Triple X from last week, this one's actually a pretty surprisingly good movie. It's a film that, of course, is filmed in Hawaii. And you have Kate Bosworth, Michelle Rodriguez, and Sano Lake, who plays Lena. They're very good in the movie together. They're 3 very good friends overall. I like the surfing scenes in particular. I think they're shot very well. This director is John Stockwell, who's done a couple of decent movies. He did Crazy Beautiful. I just said Crazy Beautiful was a decent film, but that was one which was kind of like that one wasn't really a good film overall. But his next movie, Into the Blue, is kind of a guilty pleasure movie. The more I think about it, it's a film it's bad for a number of different reasons, but bad in a fun kind of way too. But this movie in particular, I think overall, is very well done. You've got a lot of good young actors here working off each other very well here. They're really the flow that keeps the movie together, along with the surfing sequences, which I think are very cool to look at. Even if you're not the biggest surfing person in the world, seeing them on surfing with these shots with while they're doing it are very cool to see. And you do have to wonder how they're getting these shots down, because I think most of these shots were actually done while they were doing it, which was kind of unprecedented for the time. I mean, I don't know how much CG was actually used for those scenes, but they're really cool and very well done overall. The story has been been there, done that before. I mean, it's something that's been done numerous times in various movies like this, but it's never getting to the point where it kind of ruins the ebb and flow of the movie right away. It actually works for what they're doing here. It's not the greatest overall, but it certainly could have been done a lot worse than what it's done in other movies like this. But you do get invested with the characters. You do like the surfing scenes in particular. There are a lot of things about the film that are very enjoyable. There is a lot to really appreciate about the effort that's being put into this movie, which, I think they did a very good job of handling that. It's a movie that doesn't really get the proper attention I think it deserves. I mean, it was a hit when it came out, but then it just kind of slipped away, honestly, and never really amounted to anything except for, the lazy generic Universal direct-to-DVD sequel. Because if you made a Universal film and it made somewhat of a profit, they're going to make a direct-to-DVD sequel that makes the first film look like Citizen Kane compared to what they do with the sequels. But yeah, I thought the movie was pretty good. I think it's a very underrated film. Definitely get to see one of Kate Bosworth's early film roles. It's definitely worth it. I'd say definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. It's a really good film, Blue Crush. So, yeah, that's probably the best overall film we have this weekend, because our next movie is anything but good. Let's talk about the infamy that is The Adventures of Pluto Nash.
On the move. Take off. Take aim. Oh. Take cover.
Let's get it right this time.
On August 16th, we're hoping
get a brand new us.
Get ready for Eddie.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Look at me.
The Adventures of Pluto Nash.
Why don't you take these Hillarys? We appreciate you helping us out.
Rated PG-13.
Hillary Clinton dollars. That will never get dated. Let that joke set the tone for the movie you're about to watch, or maybe hear about, because you should not watch this movie. Let me tell you something. I've been going to movies at the movie theater for about 7 years at this point. The Adventures of Pluto Nash was probably the first movie I ever truly walked out of a movie theater saying that I absolutely hated on a number of different levels. I despise this movie on so many levels, and once you see the film, you probably will think the same thing. I mean, this is a rough movie, and let's just put it this way. Actually, before we do that, let's just run down the plot real quick. After his successful nightclub is blown to flaming bits, Pluto, played by Eddie Murphy, and his band travel across the moon looking for clues as to who is behind the arson. Along with Bruno, played by Randy Quaid, and Dina, played by Rosario Dawson, Pluto visits a seedy motel, his secret hideout, and the casino of the most powerful man on the moon, searching for the evildoer, only to find out that the destruction of his club may have been his own fault. And like I said, this was really the first movie I ever saw in a theater where I honestly thought it was absolute garbage. I mean, I saw Scooby-Doo that same summer in a theater. This made Scooby-Doo look like Citizen Kane. I'm not even kidding. This is a bad movie. Eddie Murphy has made some really bad movies in his career, but even so, this is at the bottom of the barrel. I mean, Lorber is a bad movie, but at least it has some form of quality to it, because you have Rick Baker doing the same special effects he did with The Nutty Professor, and those were really great. Too bad the rest of the movie was complete garbage. I mean, that at least I could say is positive for Lorber, but this is just a mess. Let me put it this way. This movie has been sitting in development hell for 20 years before Warner Brothers finally decided to agree to 20 years. You would think that within 20 years, somebody would have looked at the script and go, maybe we should change this around to fit modern times. But nope. This movie is too lazy to even do that. They took a script clearly from the 1980s and tried to make it for 2002. There are jokes that are so dated. And just like I said before, jokes that will eventually become dated. They didn't even bother to change any of the script at all. It's like, this is the first movie, this is the movie that's the first example of a studio putting in way too much money in what they thought was going to be the next big hit franchise. I mean, they put $100 million to this movie. I mean, somebody at Warner Bros. Thought this was worthy of $100 million. I mean, you gotta hope that the dude who greenlit either got fired or completely was burned at the stake in particular. But then again, now that I realize that Warner Brothers has probably made bigger movies that have had this budget since then that have been much worse. But that's for another time. You know how much of that $100 million they made back? $7 million. $7 million. That's the total gross that this movie made, and that was worldwide. This thing didn't even cross $5 million domestically. This is the quintessential example of a financial flop. And I don't think any other parody could have ever painted the perfect picture of how the studio must have felt than the Robot Chicken bit. Where they talk about this the Monday after Pluto Nash came out, and everybody in the studio is just like completely on the cut, is finding ways to kill themselves because of how much of a disaster this movie is. Which, unfortunately, I can't show it here because good old YouTube and their copyright issues. So yeah, if you want to go look for it, I beg you to go look for it because it's more than worth it just to see how a perfect parody of that could honestly be a real-life scenario of what actually happened at Warner Brothers the Monday after this movie came out. That's what it feels like when you've wasted money on a movie that nobody was going to watch. I mean, this was unprecedented back then for how bad this movie performed. And this was Eddie Murphy at his absolute worst. And honestly, that's saying a whole lot. This whole movie is a mess. It's a mess of a film. It's not funny. It's not clever. This was a script that was sitting on numerous shelves in Hollywood for decades. And it shows. There was not a single laugh in this entire movie. There's not one bit of anything clever. No impressive visuals. No good acting. A stupid twist that you can see coming a mile away. I mean, the plot I just summed down for you pretty much tells you what the plot of the movie, what the twist is, if you look real closely into it. This was just a gigantic mess of stupidity. Lack of creativity or enjoyment. It just didn't work. It was the absolute worst movie released in 2002. One of the worst movies I've ever seen. This movie made The Master of Disguise look better by comparison. That's how bad this movie is. So, I guess you can obviously know what I'm about to tell you, and that is avoid the adventures of Pluto Nash like the plague. So let's go ahead and try to wrap this up on a more positive note. Here's Gwyneth Paltrow in Possession.
Gwyneth Paltrow. Aaron Eckhart. Possession.
You know, the fact that this is PG-13 probably doesn't help the movie's overall quality because of what it's trying to accomplish here, but certainly better than some of the other movies we've looked at this week, but or at least Pluto Nash. But you have Aaron Eckhart playing Roland Mitchell, who's an American scholar trying to make it into the difficult world of British academia. I keep thinking of My Hero Academia. British academia. He has yet to break out from under his mentor's shadow until he finds a pair of love letters that once belonged to one of his idols, a famous Victorian poet. Michelle, after some sleuthing, narrows down. I guess it's Roland Michelle, not Mitchell, like before, but Michelle, like a Ben Stiller and Dodgeball. Michelle! Anyway, back to the plot. Michelle, after some sleuthing, narrows down the suspects to a woman not his wife, another well-known Victorian poet. Roland enlists the aid of a Dr. Maud Bailey, an expert on the life of the woman in question. Together they must piece together the story of a forbidden love affair and discover one of their own. They also find themselves in a battle to hold on to their discovery before it falls into the hands of their rival, Fergus Wolfe, played by Toby Stephens, and of course Maud Bailey is played by Gwyneth Paltrow. This is directed by Neil Butte, who had directed Your Friends and Neighbors and In the Company of Men and Nurse Betty beforehand, and definitely not one of his strongest films overall, but a film that's, how do I put this? It's not the worst, but you expect a little bit more considering A, the source material, the fact that it's a romantic mystery drama, and that one of the characters is a literal free-thinking bisexual, so that's one of the things they try to bring into this situation, but it's PG-13. You know you're not going to get any big nudity scenes in particular here, or really that many arousing sex scenes if you're really that interested in those. But I guess what you get with the film that does work are the performances. I think Gwyneth Paltrow and Aaron Eckhart do a pretty good job of handling the role here. The mystery aspect here is kind of intriguing overall. I think it does serve itself okay, but the climax of the film I think is really where the film starts to lose its focus. Once you figure out where they're going with the direction that they're going, you can kind of figure it out right away, and it does kind of ruin the mood and the ebb and flow of what was working beforehand. There are times when the film works pretty well, but then it kind of slows off a little bit here to the point where I can't really recommend it overall. I mean, like I said, it's not one of Neil Butte's best films, but it certainly isn't a great movie on either shape or form either. It's just kind of a movie that I can't even recommend, quite honestly. It's just kind of like, I mean, it's not the worst, but it's definitely not something that's great either. It's something I can't really recommend overall. But that's really all I got to say about this one here. This one didn't really leave much of a lasting impact to me personally, but that is Possession. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. The next time we meet, we'll have 4 more movies, including Matthew Perry and Elizabeth Hurley in the comedy Serving Sarah. We also have Walter Hill's Undisputed, Al Pacino and Andrew Nicole Simone, Andrew Nicole being the creator of The Truman Show and also the director of Gattaca. We also have Robin Williams, and probably his most out of character role up to this point, 1 Hour Photo, which we have a lot of really good movies in this show coming up next time around, so definitely be on the lookout for that one. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.